so frustrated over this situation that is, and I'll repeat it, the law firm's dirty little secret. Hello, and welcome to Lawfully Employed, the podcast for legal rebels and disruptors. I'm very, very excited today because we're going to be doing a topic after my own heart and something that I've personally been through, and that is bullying in the law firm, of all places, a legal environment. And this is particularly a hot topic. So I want to introduce my good friend and renowned psychologist, the stress doc, Mark Gorkin, who's been on TV, articles, written books, on and on and on. He's just fabulous.
He's a legend in his own mind.
He's a legend in his own mind. There you go, Mark. There you go. He actually is a legend. And what I'm excited about is that we're going to be talking about one of the law firm's dirty little secrets. It really is. It's a dirty little secret. And what I want to convey to you is to speak up. Speak up. And if you don't get anything else out of this podcast today, speak up. So without further ado, introducing my fabulous co-host over here, let's just delve right into bullying. You know, I am a headhunter. I'm a recruiter. I listen to people who want to leave their jobs. Most of the time, what you're going to read is people are leaving their job because of management. But it never says, what about management? What about management that's making it so uncomfortable? Well, they're not good leaders. Well, the firm is disorganized. Anything but the truth for a lot of you. And that is, you're being bullied. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the types of candidates that I see who come to me, not quite crying, but I think if they could, they would. For example, the other day I interviewed a candidate and she said to me, I asked the normal question, why do you want to leave? We're all going to ask that. And she said, well, and her voice is trembling, my boss, it's not so good there. My boss yells at me. He makes demands that I can't meet. He's threatening me with my job all the time. I just got to get out of there. I just got to get out of there. And I said to her, I'll call her Jane. Jane, has it occurred to you that you're being bullied? And she looked at me and she said, no. And a lot of that is because you don't recognize what bullying is all about. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're in an AM law firm, a small firm, a solo practitioner. It doesn't matter. Bullying is bullying, and we've got to recognize it for what it is. Now,
can I say something, Chere? Or do you want to finish your...
I'd like to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to just, that's okay. That's okay. So what we're going to accomplish today is Mark is going to go over how to recognize bullying. He's going to go over what to do about it because that's extremely important. And I am going to chime in with one of the most frustrating things that totally anger me. And I'm going to say this about that. And that is, I don't care if you lean to the left. I don't care if you lean to the right. But the truth of the matter is the administration today, right now, is using bullying tactics to get their way. I don't care if you agree with them, you don't agree with them, none of my business. But I'll tell you this, what they are doing is setting a precedent. And what they are doing is making it okay to be bullied. That's what they're doing. And I have a huge issue with that because people follow their leaders. And I'm afraid that bullying, instead of pushing it away, pushing it out the door, getting rid of it, is going to expand because now the administration has given us the okay that this is the way to conduct yourself. And I'm here to tell you, it ain't so. It ain't so. So, Mark, you wanted to jump right in? Come
Well,
down, Mark.
well, actually, I think it's interesting. Can I, say something? And you said, no, I want to finish. And if that was the opposite of a bullying environment where you could have spontaneous exchange, ask, because that's what happens. It becomes, you listen to me, you don't know anything. It becomes a very aggressive, demeaning form of communication. And you know what? I guess that's what I was really thinking about, Sherry. The real tragedy is there's this perception, hey, you got to be tough to make it in a law firm.
Wait a minute. Are you saying I just bullied you? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh,
Just
okay.
saying
I'm
that-
defensive. I'm defensive.
Yeah, no. I'm saying that I asked to cut in. You said, no, I'd like to finish. And I said, fine. That's good communication. The opposite of what goes on in a law firm.
Right. That is the opposite of what goes on.
And that's
in
why
a law
I wanted
firm.
to underscore.
Now, I'll tell you, Mark is going to talk to you about all different types of bullying that we don't even recognize. But I'll tell you this, I talk to so many associates in law firms who tell me that they're being bullied to exceed their billable hours or what, or they're going to lose their job. Sometimes it's not even their fault. The pipeline isn't clear. They're not getting the work that they need to get. So they reach down to paralegal work. They'll do anything and everything that they can do because they're desperate. And they don't realize that they're being bullied.
I think that's so important, Sherry.
Yes.
What happens is when you buy into that, it's a survival of the fittest culture, and you've got to up your game, and you got to be as tough as they are. What happens is when you, on some level, your soul is telling you, no, this is not the way, normal human beings engage with one another, or somewhat decent human beings. But if you buy into that, you then wind up thinking something's wrong with me. I'm not tough enough.
And they do think something's wrong with them.
And
Every candidate that comes to me that describes their situation but doesn't call it bullying thinks that they're not doing a good job. And I'm here to tell you, if I put them somewhere else where they're not being bullied, they're going to be doing a great job. And they're going to feel a whole lot better about themselves. But let me tell you about something that happened to me for just a second, because I had Mark years ago. I had Mark on the phone. I was whining. I was crying. I was, he's my good friend. I confide in him, and he takes care of my stress from time to time, although I'm learning how to do it myself. But I was being cyber stalked. And this was maybe 10 years ago. This was before there were laws in place against cyber stalking. And cyber stalking is a form of being bullied. This paralegal, we'll call her Jeannie J. I won't give you any more information than that, but real estate paralegal down south. She decided to anonymously cyber stalk me, and she would be sending me these anonymous messages, horrible stuff. And of course, I got very upset. I called the FBI. I called the police department, and there wasn't anything that they could do for me other than being empathetic. Now, my husband, who you've heard me talk a great deal about, my wonderful husband, I don't know what I did to deserve him, but thank you, God. It rolled right off of him. Don't worry about it, for God's sakes. But I was so upset. And this went on for at least 2 years. I finally learned how to track down. It was one of those websites where you don't know where the person is coming from. And I dug deep and I found her. And she was in Atlanta. And I knew immediately who it was. I confronted her and she said, "Oh, yeah, that's me. Oh, yeah, that's me." I have the emails from her to this day. Now you can't do that. It's against the law. But then she put a picture of my car in front of my house on the internet with the license plate showing. I mean, it was, that may not sound like a lot to you, but it was a lot to me. I don't want people knowing where I live. I mean, not in this day and age. So I've been through it. I can relate to it. I really can. And it angers me because what happens in these law firms is they condone it. Why do they condone it? They're condoning it because they don't want to lose the rainmaker. And I'll tell you something else. We have a wonderful client, a boutique law firm, a lot of high winds. You can't get any better when it comes to litigation. And what was happening was we were placing both their attorneys and their legal assistants, paralegals. And the paralegals and the legal assistants kept turning over. And of course, we have to replace it, no charge or refund on a prorated basis. Enough of my sales speech. But what was happening was they were turning over. And finally, we found out what was happening. The managing name partner was a bully. What was he doing? He was actually dressing people down in the hallways, yelling at them, throwing coffee cups at them. Can you imagine? Throwing coffee cups. So when I found that out, I went immediately, called a meeting with the, let's just say the COO, because the managing partner wasn't going to come. My team and I went in and we said, look, we are never going to put anybody knowingly in a hostile environment where they're being bullied. So we're firing you. That's exactly what we're doing. Now, I'm telling you, you couldn't get a better dream client in terms of they hired quickly. They gave great feedback. They paid their bills before the person started, unheard of. And I fired them. I fired them as a client because what happened? It was the managing partner, and they refused to bring him in and dress him down for his behavior. That's when a law firm condones. They condone it. And if any of you are sitting in a similar situation, get out now. Run. Okay, run. You don't only have to come to me, right? But get out now. If you're not getting up in the morning and loving it, don't do it. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about what kinds of bullies there are, because I think people need to know this.
Well, there's types of bullying. There's the face-to-face where people will scream at you or throw coffee cups. And just don't forget, as you said, bullies often tend to be people in power who like to intimidate and build their ego over subordinates. So they're looking to diminish you and build themselves up. They feed on this kind of domination and intimidation. And of course, underneath it is a lot of insecurity. Not surprisingly, bullies came up in families where there was bullying or verbal abuse or physical abuse. Perhaps they've had early experiences in a career where they were, the target of bullying and they saw it worked. So, hey, I'm going to learn how to do that, or I'm going to refine my techniques. So it's all, and then of course, bullies often have really mental health issues, substance abuse issues, anger management issues, a lot of stress at home and the bottom line is they need help and they are denying that and refusing to get the help they need. And so they take out their frustrations, their goals, their fantasy of, being the best and being the smartest person in the room. And there's a narcissistic, I'm entitled to behave the way I am because I'm bringing in a lot of money for this firm. So all these.
Do you think? Let me just ask this question. Yeah. Do you think it makes them feel good? Is it a feel-good feeling?
I think it's a diversion from how they're really feeling about themselves.
Okay.
It's it's a little like it's a court victory. I bested you, I intimidated you, I dominated you, and
I win.
Yeah,
I win.
I'm the winner, and you're the loser.
That's right.
And you're right. The political climate has definitely used that language over and over again.
I'll tell you, the things that they're doing, again, I don't care if you think the government budget needs to be cut or you don't think, but the inhumane way that they're treating people via bullying has got to stop. And unfortunately, it's not going to.
No, that's
So what's happening is they're setting precedent and they're making it okay. It is not okay.
and
Listen
what's
to me.
important is management realize when you allow that rainmaker or that senior partner to do this kind of engage in this kind of bullying, really almost criminal behavior. But unfortunately, sometimes it can't be labeled criminal unless it involves age, sex, race, or disability, discrimination in some ways. So
You mean to
there's a
tell me
legal
that?
issue here.
Whoa. Let's back up a little bit. You mean to tell me that horrifying, scaring the bejesus out of people, pardon my bejesus, nobody says that anymore, that's not criminal? That you're
It may
threatening
not
people?
be. It may not be.
I find that
I know.
that's appalling. That is
right.
absolutely appalling.
Yeah.
Appalling.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as I say, unless it really involves the areas where there's legal protection, age, race, sex, disability discrimination, I suppose some people can wiggle out of that. Anyway, let me continue the types of bullying.
Of
We
course.
said the direct.
My mind is going all over the place
No,
because
and
it's this SUV show.
no, hey, this is a subject that I think so many people have experienced bullying. In these, whether it was the direct bully, there's the covert bully who gossips, who, talks badly about others, is trying to knock you down, but not to your face. They're very passive aggressive. And yet that can be, and it's harder to prove that that's going on because it is indirect, it's covert. And then there's, as you talked about, the cyberbullying, and that can be, as you said, what you described, Chere, it's so invasive for her to.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah. But it can be, they can repost something that you've said, or they can fabricate what you've said. I mean, anyway. I also did some research and I found an interesting list of bullying behaviors in the Australian Human Rights Commission. And let me go through these because it shows the range of behavior. Physical or verbal abuse, yelling, screaming, or offensive language, excluding or isolating employees, psychological harassment, gossip, intimidation, assigning meaningless tasks unrelated to the job, giving employees impossible jobs, deliberately change work rosters to inconvenience particular employees, and undermining work performance by deliberately withholding information vital for effective performance. Who hasn't experienced some of that?
I think everybody's experienced it. I really do. My husband the other day, when he knew we were going to do this hot topic, he said to me, "You know what? When I was a kid, nobody bullied me." And I said, "Nobody bullied me?" He said, "Well, I was a big guy. They knew I would sit on him." So basically, it's true. You have to know my husband. He's just the most mild-mannered lawyer, right. Okay? But what he was saying was, I'm not going to be intimidated by that. Since I was a child, that's what he was saying. So how do you go not being intimidated by that? What do you do?
Sometimes you have to reach that point where I've had enough. And I remember this one young attorney, this woman, was being harassed, and not for the first time, and verbally browbeaten and yelled at, and she suddenly snapped and said, "You know what? I don't let anyone in my family talk to me that way. You're not going to talk to me that way." And to her surprise, he backed off. See, bullies often aren't used to people standing up to them because their initial aggression is so shocking. Even if you're not frightened half to death, you're just in a state of, I can't believe I'm experiencing this. So you're in a state of almost paralysis. She was able to somehow break that chain. And unfortunately, as she explained, he found other people to prey on. He left her alone. And again, the sickness is when other partners are enabling this because of either they're afraid of the bully or they don't want to, influence their coffers. I want that money to keep coming in.
But how do you stand up to them? What do you do? And how is it that some people, I know this is terrible to say, but some people fall into being victim to the bullying over and over and over again? What's with that? What's going on with
Well, that's like being in a battered spouse relationship, where you don't have a lot of confidence in yourself. You're not sure that you deserve, you've been told you're a second-class citizen, so to speak. Just the bullying, can be intimidating. The fear of, at least for many years, women, let's say it was the woman who was being bullied in that marital, abusive situation, she might not have had enough financial resources. Leaving was, holy crap.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's changing. And I think it is changing, but it's not always, you still, if you're especially young in the field, will I be able to find another job? But that's what's key. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. As you said, Chere, you have to be able to have enough self-respect. And even if it's not full-scale bullying yet, but there's something that has you feel uncomfortable, start looking elsewhere. Don't keep staying in the same dangerous situation. And knowing that you have
doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah,
not going to happen. No.
Right.
But tell me.
You're probably not the only one. Find a stress buddy in the office. Don't be afraid, or don't be ashamed to say, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble with, I want to say that asshole, Mr. J. Have you ever experienced any of this? And I know someone else.
What do you do? HR covers it up. They cover it up. I mean, some HR, I'm not talking about everybody, but they cover it up. What do? You just leave? I mean, what if you can't find a job? The what ifs are so long. And you go to HR or you go to the managing partner or you go to whomever and you complain and they just say, okay, well, that's the way he is or that's the way she is. What do you do with that? What do you do? How do you stand up? What do you say?
Well, as I said, I thought she was good. Hey, I don't let my family members talk to me that way. I'm not going to let you talk to me that way. And you have to be prepared that person might fire you. Right. But you know what? If you know you're good and you've got the evidence, the work history to show that, you're going to find some place because they're going to be healthier people who are going to appreciate what you bring to their workplace. And so don't ever first of all, don't ever let a job truly get you sick because it's not just going to be psychological stress. Your body's going to break down under this kind of assault.
We have to learn that early in life. I'm just sitting here remembering something that just came back to me when I was like 7 years old. And we were living in Santa Barbara at the time. And I had have a younger brother. And this kid that lived in the house behind us, well, let's just put it this way. One day, I walked up to him and I socked him as hard as I could in the stomach. I just went off and socked him as hard. And my parents, instead of yelling at me, said, well, Chere Bunny, they used to call me Bunny in those days. Why did you do that? And I said, because he was making fun of Dean. He was making fun of my brother. And I think because that's where you learn this, where you start to take care of other people. And even though we didn't know to call it bullying then, and certainly sucking a 7-year-old in the stomach was not the right thing to do. But it makes such an impression on you when you do stand up to the bully. And I'll tell you something, it's better to leave the job, all right, than to stay in a situation that's going to destroy you. And that's what's happening. All these candidates that I see, they're being destroyed. Why do that to yourself? Why do that to yourself? There's another job out there for you. And I'm not advocating that you leave your job before you find another job. Career buster. That's a career buster. But if you know that this is now a temporary situation, you can do anything. Yeah. You can do anything. It's what you're going to do is change the framework of how you're thinking. Change the framework. And miracles can happen. Well, okay.
You know
So
what?
we
have to call it miracles. I really think it's you taking more control over your life.
Yes.
And how critical. And that's just a blessing and a step up the life ladder. There was something else I wanted to say, but go on, Chere.
It'll come to you at 3 a.m. You can call me.
Yeah.
I'm awake. You can definitely give me a ring, Mark. Give me a ring. Well, I want to point out below you'll see Mark's website, stressstop.com. He's really, I cannot say enough good things about him. And Mark, tell us about your book.
Well, my senior moment passed, and because just let me quickly just say, we're talking about the women that stand up to that bully, people that feel, helpless or start blaming themselves. But I remember this paralegal having a problem with an attorney who started yelling at him for filing late. And I remember the paralegal said, "It's not my fault. You don't know how to give instructions." But that's not the best way, because that's like a blaming you message. You don't know how to give instructions.
Right.
But he had reason to be angry because the lawyer kept procrastinating and would file at the last minute. And so, of course, I said, how about saying, hey, obviously there was a misunderstanding. I'm not gonna take all the blame, but there was a misunderstanding. Let's commit to getting more regular communication and more timely communication to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. And he wanted to be fighting that, lawyer. He reluctantly said, yeah, that would probably be better. So
because they want
that's
that fight.
The power of assertive communication, not blaming them. Hey, there was obviously a problem in communication. You don't take all the blame. We have a problem. I want to do something about it. And the implied sort of statement is, do you? Or question is, do you? And that's how, no matter how that person responds, you're going to feel good about yourself.
I'm reminded of that movie, a classic, years and years ago, Network. And the famous line from that is, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
There you go.
That's what I say to you. That's what I say to all of you out there. But the most important thing you need to do is recognize that you're being bullied. Don't cover it up with something else. Oh, that's the way he is. Or, oh, HR is not going to do anything about it. Maybe I didn't do a good job. Stand up. Get a backbone. Just get a backbone. And I guarantee you, your life will be better. I know mine was, okay? And now that I'm thinking about it, I think about how I was bullied when I was a senior vice president in a $5 billion company running a division of hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And I was being bullied. And it all comes back to me. I didn't recognize it at the time. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that fabulous book you've written.
It's my child. It's called Where is Charlotte? Or Where is, and you can fill in a child's name. It's about a feisty little girl who loves to play hide and seek, and it's sung. It's a kind of lyrical, poetry. It's sung to the tune of Frere Jacques. And Charlotte, is she hiding in the closet? Is she beneath the blanket? And Charlotte goes, "No, she's not. No, she's not." And it's just, it really, and especially when we think of this age that we're in, where it's a very patriarchal, women know their place and men are, I want role models for children, both men and boys and girls, that can say, "No, she's not," that have a voice, that they're going to be authentic. They're going to tell you what they're thinking and feeling. At one point, after she comes out of the hiding place, she says, "Even though you're bigger, I'll roar like a tiger." You know what was crazy, Sherry? I had done an intervention with nurses. One of the nurses had been strangled by a patient. Oh. And everybody was shook up. And so we did a grief debrief where we talked about it. And at some point, I've written a book, a children's book. Would you like to see it? And I ran out, came back. And there we were, 12 nurses singing, "Where is Charlotte? Where is Charlotte? I'll find you." And saying, "No, she's not." And Roy, what was better than to have them as a community affirming their voice, affirming their strength, roaring like a tiger?
It's great, which I want all of you to do. If you have problems, please seek help, okay? Do not let this fester. It's not a good situation.
Have a stress buddy. Have a stress buddy at work.
There you go. There you go. Seek therapy. Do what it is that you need to do, but don't take it. That's my advice. And I'm so frustrated over this situation. That is, and I'll repeat it, the law firm's dirty little secret. So without further ado, I want you to reach out to Mark at stressdoc.com. His website is below. Reach out to me. Oh, I've got a new book coming out. In just a couple of weeks. And I'm so excited about this. The name of it is, drumroll please, Power Plays for Legal Professionals, Moving Up, Moving Over, or Moving Out. And I've got a lot of great material there over the last 20 years, maybe a little bit more than 20 years, worth of experience. I'd love to have you get a copy. Please go to my website. There's a landing page there. You can pre-order it right now. I'm giving a discount, of course. I'll be happy to autograph it for you, of course. But buy my book. I think it's going to help. And one of Mark's fabulous articles are in there about bullying. And he definitely is available for consultations. Please look him up. He's the best. I promise you, he's the best. So that's it for today by Chere Estrin. I hope you didn't think that I was too off the wall, but yeah, I do hope you think I was too off the wall. I hope you learned from this, because I sure did. So until next time, we'll be seeing you.